Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, I welcome Mr. Ashok Kumar Trisal, and he will talk about landscape design and principles. I now request the speaker to begin. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
my namaskara to one and all over there. My name is Ashok. I'm ready with today's presentation. See, I have been given a topic on landscaping and landscaping design and principles. I will just before I touch the main topic today, I just want to tell you. See, quite often we come across two terms: gardening and landscaping. See, garden, as you know, it's a piece of land only, proportionate with turf, plants, trees, herbs, flowers. So that is a typical definition of a garden. But how does it differentiate from this one, landscaping? See, it is all about the elements we use. Both involve use of elements. See, but gardening, it is it is tending a piece of land and cultivating it from time to time. I mean, you have a seasonals which you will be requiring to place now as per your seasons. And landscaping on the element, on the other hand, it is all about creating a garden or any space which is functionally and aesthetically pleasing to senses. And you see, both involve use of elements and terrain, and both are equally responsible for creating outdoor spaces which are functional visually and environmentally sound too. See, now coming back to landscaping, actually, landscaping has been practiced from centuries. When we use just there are references about landscaping in our scripture, in our sacred scriptures like Ramayana and Mahabharata. See, but landscape, when it comes landscaping, I mean, main focus is on aesthetics. There are other spin-off benefits of landscaping, but uh, our main focus is on aesthetics. I mean, we are a landscape horticulture is more concerned about transforming any barren piece of land into a functional and aesthetically pleasing part of organized part of nature only. And when it come, see, but then question is, how do you achieve landscaping? Landscaping can be accomplished by variety of ways. The principal ones are by addition of plants. Those are main components for carrying out a landscaping, and by making changes to the existing terrain, or by construction of structures. Any desired things, additions you want to make, be in the form of pergola, gazebos, patios, decks, anything, or beautifully designed water feature or anything. So these are three major ways where you can accomplish this thing, landscaping. Of course, uh, it has predominantly it is through use of plants. How strategically and creatively you combine this thing, softer elements and hardscape elements, is all. It is all about this thing, all about landscaping only. Yeah, madam, am I audible? I think I am audible.
Yes, sir,
Hello.
you're audible. It's
Thank you.
very
Thank
clear. You proceed, sir.
See, as I said, landscaping have been practiced from centuries. I mean, when you go back time, when you go back to the times also, humans have been practicing it by changing existing terrain, by making additions of plants, and by constructing their desired structure, additional structures. The the core functional function is that you have to make any space functional visually and aesthetically too also. See, but when it comes to landscaping, options abound. I mean, see, you can. I mean, there are people who prefer who prefer landscaping, where you make use of best. You combine both hard and soft scape elements creatively. Or there are times when that client will demand ecological landscapes. His main focus is on environmental benefit. He wants to conserve resources like specifically water, and at the same time create a landscape which creates a natural habitat. Or there are people who have who want to create a kind of unique landscape. I mean, which may they will place more this thing. They will place more emphasis on beauty, stunning beauty. Though even though that it may they may not like to have, they may not bother much about that environmental benefits and other things. So we talked about sustainable landscaping. Contemporary means there is a perfect combination of soft scape elements and hard scape elements. Then we have a then we have a style which people prefer based on their tastes, perceptions, and daily usage. See, landscaping is a process actually. What is that? What is landscaping process? It is a task which combines both science as well as art. Any landscapes, any landscape horticulturist, he is supposed to be good when it comes to this thing, practical horticulture knowledge, as well as he needs to have familiarity with elements and principles of landscaping. His job is to turn ideas into visuals and try to address common problems faced at sites, which are typically slope, wind, sunny, too much sun, or lack of adequate sunlight, space constraint. I mean, you may not have adequate space to fit in every feature used in landscaping, but then those are major challenges and he is supposed to address them, and while keeping budgetary constraints in mind, if any. I mean, budget may not be a constraint all the time. Now coming back to elements, what are the elements? Because I made mention of this thing, soft scape and hard scape elements used, which are creatively combined, organized for carrying out landscaping jobs. See, we have basically two type of elements which are collectively called features also. We call them landscape feature. There are soft elements and there are hardscape elements. You see, soft scape elements, they are living elements of your landscapes. Flowers, grass, trees, plants, herbs, shrubs, bushes. These would be called typical. These would be good examples of this thing, soft scape elements. While as on the other hand, all those inanimated elements which we employ to secure grounds and make them practical and beautiful, follow in this category. They are hard. They could be your walkways, pathways, driveways, fences, gazebos, decks, uh, anything. I mean, how it is. This term is taken from hard strata, which is hard, which is man-made only. Then there is one more this thing, type what we call it. This is one more element which is a combination of two softscape and hardscape. We call them living hardscapes. See, typical examples will be your this thing walk path. You have this thing walking stones embedded into soil, and in between you have a grass, moth. It is an example of living hardscape. Or you consider a rock garden. You have a rocky hill type of structure. Within that, there are pockets which are filled with soil and plants. So those are the examples of living hardscapes. Now, what is the purpose of landscaping? Why? See, there is a growing demand for landscaping. It is not only aesthetic. See, whenever landscapes means primarily for beautifying spaces in and around a building, be it housing society, be it office, be it institution, be it parks or public places. There is a growing demand for landscaping. Primary reason is people want to transform. Primary reason is just to soften the hardscape. They want that your housing societies, institutions, schools, or public places, they should these things. Landscaping makes it agreeable places to develop on. Therefore, plants chosen for landscaping apart from aesthetics, ornamentation or shade, they should serve other functional architectural and engineering glaze. What do I mean by architecture? Architecture means, I mean, you have a structure, but right and left, or you can put some plants. You are actually framing a view. That is architecture. And some plants also, they are architectural, quite architectural in shape also. I mean, that is they add to the beauty and tranquility of the place. Functional, I mean, they have to provide, they have to perform some functions, like you require plants for amelioration of microclimate, for screening, for abatement of noise, and above all, for they act as sinks for gases, pollutants. They are good at combating that pollution problems. Engineering functions also, I mean, they can slow down that this thing, rain velocity, or they can prevent that runoff, or they can prevent of that soil erosion. Plants or grasses on that slope, this thing, steepy slopes of embankments is a typical example how plants are used for this engineering purpose only, to serve certain engineering use. I mean, see, as you see in my this introductory this thing remarks also, see, plants, they play a major role. There are other roles like changing existing terrain, or by adding desired structures. But plants do play a major role. I mean, that's why it is important to know the functional implications of whenever you use any planting material. See, planting materials are primarily evergreens. No, evergreens, why do you require evergreens? Evergreens means where you want them to stay green all around the year. That is one reason why you prefer evergreens. Then you want evergreens because you want a permanent visual screen. You don't want to. You have your private this garden. You don't want somebody to eye it. You don't want nuisance of leaf litter. If they stay green, you don't have to collect leaves, dry and dead leaves falling down. You don't have to. Then columnar trees. See, some trees at the base, like you have that silver oak or poplar trees or casuarinas, you can put them at the this thing. They will unmark your boundaries. They grow tall, and it's a kind of putting a green fence all around your this thing space. Then there are separate tall and with spreading canopies. They also serve aesthetic and ecological. They have that ecological function as well. weeping plants, like you have this bottle brush type of plants and other things, which branches will droop. They are strategically placed at the entry point. I mean, as a mark, as a sign of welcome. Then you have ground covers. Apart from lawn, see, lawn itself is a ground cover, but ground cover in a horticulture sense, it is all about ground hugging plants. They typically grow to small heights. That you can use them for contrast. You can use them as a low maintenance option in place of regular lawn, or where lawn does not thrive well because of light constraints. Then this is the way to go for. Or this at times they are introduced into landscape to provide interest, variety, or contrast. Or it is a subtle way of demarcation for defining spaces where putting shrubs or trees can be found to be this thing intrusive. Now I will come back to this thing now. Landscape plan, landscape design and elements. I talked about this thing principles already. This is now about the main design and principles. See, any landscape design, it is a plan. I mean, it is a visual presentation of a landscape using scaled symbols and dimension. It is just like any other plan. It is like a floor plan for an outdoor area. See, this thing, landscape plants, including natural ones like flower, trees, everything. When you use, there are no standards for using the symbols in landscaping design. You can use anything. There are no fixed or rigid rules, but they should be suggestive of the appearance at later stage. So design is required because you can have this thing plan and for execution, for arriving at a budget, or you can design should also include overlays for irrigation and lighting, because those things are helpful whenever you are planning any future extension or an outdoor event. This will serve this landscape design will serve as this thing. It will serve as a reference, and it is important because of decision making process and for selecting planting material, hardscape material, everything, as well as we will understand financial implications of going for landscaping. Now, what are steps required for this thing, for finalizing a design of a landscape? First and foremost is there is need. You need to do a need analysis. Need analysis, it is like having an inventory of what can be achieved by way of landscapes, and what all will be required to landscape a space. That is a landscape, and accordingly areas can be divided as a front yard, backyard, private garden, or anything. This is household, but similarly in institutional projects also you see them front yard, back exit points. They are different, where that landscaping will be a bit intensive, or then you will have areas which will require extensive landscape like sports grounds and other things. Same thing for and then character also, whether design will be formal or it will be this thing informal. So sorry, not formal, I mean symmetrical or asymmetrical. See, first thing is need analysis. Once you are done with the need analysis, as I said, need analysis is nothing but it is just like having an inventory of things that can be achieved through landscaping, and what all is required to achieve a landscape. What are the elements required? And then after that, we have to draw an outline. In your master plan, you draw the outline of the areas which are subject to landscaping only. You need to solely focus on those areas only. Then you will go for, first thing is go for hardscape elements. I mean, those are features which you will not change. Then the rest of the things become quite easy. Now coming back to this thing, landscaping principles only. The principles are nothing but guidelines to arrange or organize features to create aesthetically pleasing and beautiful landscape. So, see, basic understanding of landscape principles is to have basic understanding how they will function, how what are the, like when you choose a tree or a shrub or a ground cover, you need to know what you should be. Horticulture will be aware of functional implications of using an evergreen tree or a deciduous tree or a shrub or a ground cover. So those things are helpful only. And now how does he achieve, what are the, how does he make use of landscaping principles to achieve this thing, design objects and this thing, visual interest. So that's why that the following are that principles through which we try to accomplish landscaping project works. One is unity. Number one, this is the primary design principle in landscaping, unity. As the name implies, it is unification. How do you achieve unity? Unity can be understood. Unity can be understood and applied by repeating alike elements. Like you have a erica palm, you repeat it throughout the landscape at certain intervals. That unifies the place. It is not only that you have to use one, you can use two, three, or four, five type of plants, three, four, and repeat them at certain intervals throughout the. So unity, this thing, unity can be achieved by repetition. You repeat your elements, and as I said, it is not about. It is not limited to soft elements only. It is same thing with hard. Suppose you have a rock garden or a this thing walk path, you can have a one type of, like you have quota stone, or you suppose you have a rock garden, you have a limestone. I mean, you choose a stone of a geological or any geological origin and then repeat them. You cannot have some part of your rock garden with limestone and part with like granite or marble. No, it will, the whole thing will look cluttered and unplanned. That's why unity can be understood and achieved by repetition of this thing, align element. And you can same thing applies for group of plants. You need not, instead of you can have a group of plant and group of plantings and spread them accordingly throughout the landscape at certain intervals. You will achieve unity. And unity can be also achieved by consistency of character in terms of size of plant, shape, texture, form. That also unifies. I mean, nothing looks out of place. Second principle is simplicity. It is as simple as the word implies, simplicity. I mean, when you are a beginner, just keep things simple. You can add much more later on. Just rely on 2-3 colors, textures, and 3-4 colors, 3-4 texture, 3-4 type of texture, planting material or this thing, hardscape, and then repeat them accordingly throughout that space. Then there is one more principle which is important, that is called balance. Balance in design. Balance can be symmetrical or asymmetrical. See, symmetrical balance, it is you get to see the symmetrical balance in formal landscaping. You see, formal landscapes you do in institutions or schools or public places. I mean, where that you see one both sides are balanced. Balanced by balance means in terms of number of plants, texture, height, color. I mean, one side looks literally a mirror reflection of other side. Okay, that is a. I mean, they are equally spaced apart. They are of same size. I mean, or even if you find you get to see other type of plant, but it will be more or less matching matching in appearance and size as is on the other side. Then one more principle is principle of color. Color, it adds real dimension in life and it gives life to the landscape. you need color change in your landscape from time to time. Seasonals are your best bets. They provide much needed color change from time to time, so that things don't become boring or monotonous with passage of time. You have to understand when it comes, color theory can be strategically used. See, there are colors which we call cool colors like gray, white, or violet. They are cool colors. They have when you observe, when somebody views them, it looks like they try to recede into the background. Then there are yellow, orange, and yellow, orange, and red. We call them hot colors. They try to advance towards the viewer. So this can be strategically used. Suppose you want to show you want to highlight entire display of flowers or colors. Color can be in plants also, like leaves. You see in Japanese garden they hardly use seasonals. They try to balance color theory through that plants only. They use green, shades of green, dark green, light green, pale green, yellow green, like that only, blackish green. I mean, so or you can use color to direct attention of your eye. I mean, you have a signage in your institution. Down below, you can have that bright, colorful seasonals or ground cover, or just to attract attention. Then there is texture or form. Form is the outer line of any planting material, or this thing. For planting or hardscape material. Like you have round canopy, you have that vase shaped canopy, you have that drooping, what we call weeping canopy. So all those are, part in our scheme of things when it comes to landscape. And texture. See, texture is can be related to the relative softness or coarseness of leaves, or this thing, bark, tree bark, and other thing. Or for that matter, same thing applies to hardscape elements also. See, the texture, you see, coarse texture, they try to, they try to advance towards the viewer. Whereas fine textured plants, they try to recede into the background. This can be manipulatively used sometimes, because you can put fine textured plants at the backgrounds and coarse textured plant in the front, just to make it's an illusion, just to make place little bigger than it actually is. And but generally, you have to have plants of many textures, just to give that they provide the variety, and that's just to give variety expression. They provide interest, variety, as well as contrast. So texture of plants is very important. Then line is strictly a structural play, this thing, dimension of landscaping design. How do you get line? What are the lines? What are the lines of your landscape? Whether it is straight line, it is a curvy linear line, whether it is a round line. See, all they define that structure of landscape. How do you get line? Line is just when two elements meet. It is just meeting of edges of two elements. You have grass on one side, you have a walking path on the side. How these edges are there? So are they linear? And what do they suggest? Suppose straight lines. Straight lines, they are straight as the name implies, and forceful. They flow in that matter only. You have they determine how your landscape flows. Does it have formal character? You take the case of institutional any institution. There the landscape lines are usually straight, and roads are straight, edges are straight, paths are straight, and they will cut at right angles. Because it is suggestive of direct and fast movement. Unlike in typical home gardens, where the lines of your landscape will be curvilinear usually, because it represents that gentle, graceful, flowing movement. natural flow. That's why line is. But the most important is proportion. See, this I consider very important. See, landscaping is not about overdoing. You suppose you have a home which is just 10 feet by 10 by 20 foot garden, and you try to put so many things into it. It will not evoke any aesthetic interest. On the contrary, it will look things will look cluttered and unplanned only. You don't have to overdo things. Suppose you have a 10 feet by 20 feet garden and you have a huge rain tree in the middle, or some gulmohar, like it will be out of proportion and scale in relation to the building or the size of the lawn. Similarly, this is one thing, because the tree is gigantic and huge, and it does not fit into the scale of the house or of the garden. But on the contrary, again, this is one example. But again, see, you have a very big garden, public garden, and you have a small water feature or a waterfall. It can get easily lost into the expanse. So you have to be mindful about but usually proportion is size of elements in relation to one and another. So everything has to be in proportionate. But as I said, elements are scaled and planned accordingly to fit into various cushions. And at times, suppose we have to fit small elements also, then they can be taken to one corner and strategically framed with plants and other things, so they can fit into our scheme of things. And so one more principle is repetition. It's a copy of that. What I said, unity in beginning. We have to repeat alike elements, repeat plants, and gradually, strategically spread them at your own calculation throughout the landscape. You have to repeat just to create a united form. Things look cohesive when you repeat these softscape and hardscape elements. So everything looks cohesive, and it harmonizes buildings, paths, gardens, or every element. Nothing looks out of place. That's why this is important. You have a focal point. Then one more process is establishing a focal interest. It is an element to which all other elements are subordinated. So, what is your focal point? It can be a beautifully planned water feature. It can be a mound, or it can be a statue, or it can be a group of plants, or it can be even a simple specimen plants. Anything which can attract attention of the visitor in first go. That is essence. I stop here now. Thank you. I will devote rest of the time to question answers.
Thank you very much, sir, for a wonderful talk. I will take up the questions from the participants now. The first question is, sir, can you explain the concept of layering in horticultural landscape design and provide examples of how different plant layers such as shrubs and trees can be integrated to create depth and interest?
Yeah, this is a good question. As I said, trees are main components of landscaping. What are the three ways you accomplish it? Why do you landscapes mean any unused, unlively spot? When you transform it into an organized part of nature, it is a landscaping. And how do you do it? You add plants. What are plants? Plants are trees. You use shrubs, you use ground covers, you use grasses. Okay. Now, now the question is, trees means because of their physical sense, they make an impact. Okay, they add, I mean, because of their size and this thing, they make a very positive impact. And uh, they give interesting skyline, and they are long-lived elements of nature, which grow with which change in form and other features with time. And as I said, one it transforms any abandoned land spot into an organized part of nature. And it is not now, they what they do, they provide screen, they provide shade, they have that ornamental effect. Okay. And what are the trees? Why this is a purpose is also, they are good at ameliorating microclimate, right? They serve purpose of this thing, combating air pollution, right? Now, what are shrubs? Shrubs are again plants. They are amenable to pruning, heavy, moderate, or low pruning. That gives them advantage. Unlike trees, this thing, shrubs, you can prune them. You can, by pruning, I mean, you can shape them. You can keep them at higher height, middle height, anything. Or you can have them as a freestanding plants where you can enjoy their blooms, or you can space them very closely and you can mass them together. Impact, I mean, for defining spaces in the landscape, or for keeping, providing a kind of defining spaces for providing this thing. Both physical and visual this thing, uh, demarcation. And you don't want that somebody should overstep, or you can have them for security purposes also. Take the case of bougainvilleas also. I mean, it has to be impenetrable arrangement, so you can place them there. But coming back, what trees and coming back to this thing, shrubs also, they are used along with trees to reinforce those functions which I just now said, which are aesthetics, environmental, and functional. Okay.
Okay, I'll take up the next question, sir. How do horticultural practices such as pruning, shaping, and training influence the form and structure of plants within a design landscape?
Yeah, that's what I said. Your best bet is shrubs only, because they are amenable to trees, amenable to any shape. There are shrubs which you can cut. You can keep them I mean, you can keep them within bounds. Whether you are using, it's not only about gardens. Suppose you have a planter, or you get to see in malls and other things. They use plants. Either they will try to remain within their bounds, but then at the same time they are amenable to pruning or trimming, just so that so that we will keep them within bounds. You can have them, you can use them as a hedge, you can use them for flowering effect or branching pattern, for color change. Okay. So okay.
Yes, sir. Please proceed, sir.
Yeah, like now see, again I said there are shrubs like ground covers we can use. Therefore, I mean, suddenly your big lawn, it looks green. You want to provide some contrast or color change. Okay, you can use those things. I mean, again, because they typically grow to smaller heights, that's why we call them ground cover. They are also plants. So we keep them. You want to demarcate, I mean, define some spaces. You can put some ground cover plants. It is a subtle way of demarcating spaces within a landscape. I mean, there are different rooms in a big landscaped area. But how do you don't put fence or this thing or anything. You have to use plants to demarcate and define spaces. That is the beauty of the plants. You have a view on right side of your neighbor, which you don't want him to see your garden. You put closely any evergreens, they will form that visual screen. Again, you have an unsightly view. Suppose somebody you want to filter the view, you can space them little bigger than what you do in case of closed tight screening. Like, okay, you have a tree or a shrub which is not compact in its form. So because you want you can choose a plant which has sparse foliage. I mean, they are providing that green effect, but at the same time you can see through them. That's called, I mean, there are options abound. You have multitude of planting material. There are some 45,000 plants which we can, I mean, we use couple of hundreds only to carry out our landscaping. And that's what I said. A trained landscapist, he is aware of the functional implications of using a tree, which is either a evergreen tree or a deciduous tree or a columnar tree or a, this thing tree which have that drooping form. So they use it strategically for weaving. Suppose you have a, I will quote one more example. You have a very windy space, windy area. So getting your tree planting material established over there is a challenge. But then again, palms are your best bets. See their distinct look. They can pass the wind. They are nature's best wind firm trees. The examples can be many. I just quoted one example.
Okay. I move on to the next question, sir.
Yeah, I'm here only.
Explain the concept of sustainable horticulture in landscape
Yes,
designing.
see, I told you, there are people who have interest and who are environmental conscious also. They want a landscape which is sustainable landscape. What is sustainable? Sustainable is I mean, where you can conserve resources. Okay, and specifically water. Water is a very, I mean, it is a scarce item in many landscaping situations. You use plants which can thrive with a minimal amount of water. It is one example. Okay, or you can have simultaneously sustainable landscaping. They make more use of these planting material which are indigenous because they have evolved over centuries and they are well suited or adapted to local geography, hydrology, and soil conditions. So that is a sustainable is making optimal use of resources. Even suppose there are prolonged periods of drought, and see we have a situation like in arid areas like desert and other areas. We have a landscaping situation where we are bound to go for this thing. We call it not landscaping that time, xeristic packing. That is, it is sustainable. We choose a plants which can thrive despite all odds. There can be water scarcity, there can be extended period of drought, or similar this thing situations. They survive no matter what. Now again, to your question, ecology is not only about arid region. It is about your tropical area also where you are sitting now. You can choose a land because it will create a habitat, indigenous lands, sustainable. It is not only you are raising, planting, and creating a nice ameliorating microclimate, but you are by this thing. The other spin-off benefits are habitat creation, which can attract birds, butterflies, everything. So whole thing becomes vibrant. That is uh, this thing sustainable land. It sustains many forms of life. At the same time, it beautifies your spaces around your house, park, or institution, and I simultaneously doing world of good to the environment and providing habitat to other creatures as well.
Okay. What role do native plants in horticulture landscape play, and explain how they can support local ecosystem and wildlife habitats?
See, as I said, indigenous, local or indigenous, they are important. This thing, plant materials, because they require less inputs for maintaining them, for establishing them. They are and they are because they are there for over for long, many hundreds of years or thousands of years there. So that is your best bet to establish easily and quickly your landscape. Okay, because you require minimal inputs to maintain and sustain your landscape. This is sustainability is all about using less resources or recycling resources. It may not you see they require fewer pesticides, fungicides to maintain. Naturally, that will do world of good. It will not contaminate air or underground water reserves. So those are always sustainable. It is always great to have this thing, sustainable landscapes, which are there to beautify or produce an aesthetically pleasing uh, part, as well as address that ecological. It continues to provide us ecological services. But as I said, yeah, as a landscaper, you get to say, you come across many clients. There are people who are interested in sustainable landscape. They want to reduce the size of lawns. They said lawns are water guzzler. They don't want the lawns to dominate in landscaping as part of that landscape. They want it to be at the most as an ascent. They prefer ground covers because they are deep rooted compared to lawns, and they can thrive with minimal amount of water. But then there are people who are more interested in contemporary landscaping. I mean, grace is the main goals, producing something stunning and beautiful in short amount of time. So accordingly, we cater to their requirements.
Okay. How can permaculture be incorporated into landscape design to create water efficient and sustaining outdoor environment?
See, there are, yeah, it's a good question actually. Water is an issue because water is becoming scarcer day by day. So when see we have irrigation system designed for landscape. One is pop-up system. Okay, pop-up system, it is like pipes will remain buried underground, and even that it's like pop-up name comes from that. It suddenly pops up at the time of use only. Even that pop-up instrument that remains embedded and almost at ground level, you cannot see it in first glance. Suddenly it will pop up. So that gives you flexibility of irrigation. Why will you will choose an irrigation time? You will choose a time to irrigate your landscape when rate of evaporation is less. Certainly, either it can be early morning, very early morning when sun has not come out, or it can be by evenings just to minimize rate of evaporation. So that this way you will end up saving a lot of water. Once you are able to eliminate this thing, water losses due to evaporation, you are actually using less. Okay, and second is, we're talking about sustainability in landscaping. Secondly is incorporating enough manure, well decomposed manure into your landscape, be it beds, garden, or anything, because they have that natural water holding capacity. Okay, they hold more moisture also. I mean that in so that if irrigated excessively, it will not percolate down and pass beyond that root zone. So that those are simple um, methods to arrest water losses, and that way we are able to bring in sustainability to our landscaping.
Okay. Let me check if we have any further questions, sir.
Yeah. I'm here. Very much.
How do principles of plant placement and spacing contribute to the overall functionality of an horticultural designed landscape?
Yeah. It's a good question. Again, I am glad that Dhanalakshmi is coming right on the target, right, hitting bullseye only. See, for trees, it is easy. Trees usually you place them between something between 4 to 6 meters. Now, when you come to shrubs, suppose you have to form hedge, so they are placed very closely. Say between anything between 1.5 to 2 feet or 2.5 feet. That's for mass effect only. Okay. It depends. You see, you have to know what you can have. Take the case of any hibiscus gida. Hibiscus, you understand. You get to see it everywhere. If it is one plant freestanding, it will flower. It will give a lot of flowers. But when you mass them together, they lose their individual definition. There, the purpose is to provide a kind of demarcation or a line just to serve certain functional architecture or engineering uses. That is how you do. And take the case of ground cover. Ground covers are also, if you use them as single plant, they are less impactful. That's why you mass them together, they produce that dramatic effect only. So distance will depend much. It will depend on the complexity of the job. Whether you are using it as a freestanding plant for flowers, or you want it for hedge or anything, or a patch planting. Sometimes foliage is more attractive than the flower. Flowers there are many plants where flowers are inconspicuous by their size. There, the foliage is very important. Take the case of interior landscaping, which is interior landscaping. There, flowers have no meaning actually. All plants you get to see in airports or buildings and other things, they are primarily preferred for their foliage. You can have them solitary if it's a big mounted, or you can have a planter and space them closely, as close as 1 foot or 8 or 10 inch to 1 foot. So even so that ground is not visible. It depends on what kind of lands, how you are situated, what is the complexity of the job on hand, and how you have to address it. Listening, madam? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think we have completed the round of questions, sir. Thank you very much. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, I like to thank Mr. Ashok Kumar Trisal for the talk and for answering the questions. I like to also thank all the participants in the meeting. This meeting will now be closed.
Thank you, madam. I am signing off.
Thank you very much, sir.